Whipple Family Misadventures, Book 1, Welcome to the Parent of an Alien Hedgehog Club, Chapter 15. Silver was absolutely delighted to hear the news. Wade had assumed he would take it well, but the gray hedgehog looked like he had just been told he won the lottery.
You really gonna stay here forever? And you're not going back to that other person?
Shadow gave a small nod.
That's so cool! You should tell Sonic. It would have been really fun if you were here with us last night. We played this game called Minecraft and it's so fun! Dad, we need to get it. We really need to get it. You can play it and see how fun it is.
I will think about it.
Silver transferred his gaze back to Shadow.
What did you do?
When Shadow didn't say anything, Wade answered for him.
He might not want to tell you about it, Sylv. It's up to him if he wants to tell you or not. But it's his business, and please try not to bug him into telling you. But for now, how about you go put your plush away in your room so you don't lose it?
When Silver ran off, Shadow sighed deeply.
Wade?
Shadow messed with his fingers for a moment.
Is it okay?
He swallowed, his gaze everywhere but looking at Wade.
I want to stay here and be a part of, but I'm also, it's,
A really big thing?
yeah, it is.
That's okay. It is a lot of information to take in and deal with. Also, the last 24 hours have been kind of rough for you. It's okay if you need to handle it at your own pace. Don't feel that you need to rush or say or call anyone what you're not ready to do. But if you do need to talk or need anything, then please tell me so I can help.
Is it okay to be sad about what happened?
Sure.
Even though the professor wasn't a very nice person? I do want to stay here, but I'm also feeling bad about not going back.
Wade nodded.
That's all right. From what you said, it made you feel important and special from what he was planning for you, even if the person behind it wasn't very nice. And it's still a shock to learn he's dead and that it's over now and not be able to get much closure from that. It's okay to be emotional about that, and it's better to have those emotions and deal with them now instead of trying to hide them away.
What if I don't want to deal with them?
It can be really difficult to have a lot of emotions, especially ones you don't understand or are overwhelming. But emotions are a part of life. They are a response to the stuff happening to you. It helps you understand other people. And while it might be a difficult time, you're not going through this alone. That's why you asked for help.
How do you know all this?
It just so happens, when you get to a certain age, you know everything.
He smiled at Shadow's look of disbelief.
I'm kidding. Part of it comes from just being 38. I have 38 years of experience to make mistakes and learn. But I also went to therapy when I was in college and learned a lot about communication and some about mental health and how to manage my own anxiety, which has been very helpful. It hasn't gone away and I still worry about stuff, but it used to be a lot worse. I used to have panic attacks because I got so worked up about things that I couldn't control. And now it's to the point that I don't have those anymore. Mostly. But that's how I learned about it.
Wade wished he knew everything, because as much as he was aware of, there seemed to be a lot more that he didn't know. Like, even though he was better at catching himself when the anxiety cycles started and how to calm down from it, he wished he knew how to stop it altogether, or how to tell people without them thinking badly about him. Shadow had a very serious look on his face, but nodded. It made Wade deeply wish he could put Shadow into therapy, but he knew there weren't any therapists in this town that he knew of, and he was pretty sure he couldn't just take him to a random one. Beyond that, he also didn't know if Shadow would actually participate, even if he found one that agreed to do it. He could easily see Shadow shutting down and refusing to talk to a stranger. Wade looked down at him.
I do want to ask you something, and I'd really like for you to be honest. How old are you? Because I know you're not 14. I'm not mad. but I really want to know the truth.
The darker hedgehog stared at the ground for several seconds.
Will you tell anyone?
Wade thought about that.
Well, people are going to want to know your age, but maybe we can come up with a solution.
Slowly, Shadow held up 3 fingers. Wade's eyes nearly popped out of his skull as he struggled to take that in.
What?
Shadow squeezed his eyes tightly together, hunching as if to make himself smaller.
Okay, I'm not mad. I kinda understand why you said that now. How about we first take a few deep breaths, and then we'll talk about it.
The 2 of them sat in silence for a few minutes, just breathing before Wade spoke again.
Are you sure about that? Absolutely no doubt, very sure?
Shadow gave a quick nod.
Okay, but how? We know how old Sonic and Silver are, and they both seemed close to your age. If you're only 3 years old, why are you around the same size and height as them?
I don't know, but I know I've only had 3 times where they said I was a year older.
When is your birthday?
June 19th.
Okay, that's good to know.
Mentally, he made a note that he needed to find out which day Silver's was. He knew it was in April, as the Gray Hedgehog had mentioned that a while ago, but beyond that, Wade didn't know. Shadow looked up at him, a confused frown.
Sometimes I'd grow a lot. There was this tank with a mask, so I could breathe, and with lots of wires and tubes. I had to be in it several times, and the professor would give me medicine that made me feel tired, and then I'd wake up and I had grown, and also I would be really hungry. But I don't want them to know I'm only 3.
That made Wade remember that the file he requested had come with other papers and had included notes from his experiment. Some of the papers were hard to read, faded and dull writing, but it made him realize he would have to go over it more carefully and see what else he could find. Wade thought for a moment.
Well, I'd say your mental age is different than your physical age, but that's also off because of being in suspended animation.
When Shadow looked absolutely baffled, he kept talking.
It means how old you act, and I'd say you act like an 11-year-old to be 12 on your next birthday. How about that?
After a second, Shadow nodded. Later that night, Wade carefully handed logs of firewood from his woodpile outside to Shadow.
This is going to be your job from now on. You'll need to keep an eye on how much firewood is next to the stove and bring more in when it gets low.
Because now that I'm staying, I have to help out because I'm a part of the family.
That's right.
What if there's no firewood outside?
Glancing back at what he had stored, Wade wasn't worried.
We'll have enough until it warms up, and we don't need to use the stove for a few months. And during that time, we'll get more firewood so there's plenty for next winter.
He started to walk back inside, carrying his own logs.
I'll remind you for now, but you'll need to learn to start doing it on your own.
Okay.
Shadow said, following him. They had just finished replenishing the firewood when Silver came padding down the hallway in his socks, still wrapped in a towel that he was dangerously close to tripping on if he wasn't careful.
I'm all done.
Okay then, Shadow, it's your turn for a shower.
Wade said and then looked back at Silver.
Where's that fur brush I got you last week? You look very tangled tonight.
The Gray Hedgehog's expression fell, but he reluctantly went back to go fetch it, returning as slowly as he possibly could.
I don't like getting my fur brushed. It's easier to just leave it alone.
I know you don't like it.
Wade said as he took it from him and started combing his damp fur.
I'll be gentle. But the truth is you have longer fur than Sonic or Shadow, and that means it needs to be brushed more or you'll get knots in it. And the longer it goes without being brushed, the worse the knots will get.
For a few minutes, there was just silence as Wade worked. The ruff of the fur around Silver's neck and on his chest was the longest and needed the most attention. Also being gentle enough so he wasn't yanking it out made it extra difficult. It was still a bit strange, but as Maddie said, he had kids with fur now, and he needed to know how to help them take care of it. Sometimes he wondered if next winter they would have thicker coats from the cold, or if they would shed some of it at a certain time of the year.
So what do you think of Shadow staying here?
I like it. Are you going to be his dad too?
Maybe, but that's up to him.
Why wouldn't he want that?
Well, because it has to be his choice. He just learned that last night he couldn't go back to the other person like he thought he was, and that he'll be staying here. I don't think he's ready to say that yet, and forcing it on him probably won't be helpful. It would be like that night when I found you if I had brought you into the house and then just told you, guess what? I'm now your dad.
I would have been okay with that.
That made Wade laugh, although there was an undercurrent to that statement that made him feel a bit conflicted. In a few words, it showed how badly Silver wanted to belong with someone.
You didn't even know me and you were scared of me when I first saw you.
Well, you were really big and tall and I hadn't seen humans before.
Wade could only imagine what it would be like to find himself on an alien planet where he only came up a bit past the natives' knees, where people were very different. Might find him cute based on appearance or dangerous based on what humans have the ability to do. He would have been terrified as well.
Exactly. You weren't ready, and Shadow isn't either. He just needs some time to adjust, that's all.
Silver thought about that for a few seconds.
Dad,
Yeah, Silver?
do you think my parents will ever come back?
Wade paused mid-brush, taken aback by the change of topic.
You mean your birth parents?
Silver nodded. Swallowing, Wade went back to brushing.
I don't know, buddy. You said you didn't know what happened to them. They might not even still be alive.
But what if they are? And what if they've been looking for me this whole time? Because they never stopped? And then they come here and come to our house and they want me back. What then?
That would be pretty hard and involve a lot of ifs. If they are alive, if they know that you're on this planet, if they manage to somehow get there, if they manage to find us in this small town.
He silently thought that if all of that somehow happened, that he was going to give them a piece of his mind. If they were alive, then it meant they had abandoned Silver, especially in that horrible wasteland that he had described where he had spent his first decade growing up. He hadn't been safe, and Wade wondered if issues stemming from that might spring up later on. His parents couldn't just show up now and decide after all this time they want him back.
Do you want to go back to them?
Wade asked, trying his best to keep his voice level, trying not to portray the fact that the question was hard to ask. Was Silver unhappy? Did he dislike being here or being with humans and not among his own kind?
Well, I don't know. I just kind of want to meet them, if they're still alive, and ask them some questions. Like why they left and where they went and stuff.
When Silver turned around to look at him again, this time those gold eyes had a slight sheen of tears.
They still want me, right?
Suddenly, Wade realized what this conversation was about and put the metal brush down. This didn't sound like something he had just recently thought about. It was most likely something that Hedgehog had been thinking about for a long time.
Silver, I don't know why your parents left you. Maybe they died, or maybe they couldn't take care of you properly. I don't know because I wasn't there. We can only guess what happened. But either way, it was not your fault. Not in any way. There was nothing you did or didn't do that made you bad or unworthy of being cared for, or anything else that made them leave. Alright?
You sure?
I'm sure.
Wade said, wrapping him up in a tight hug.
You won't leave, will you?
Never.
But what if we're too much? Or it's too hard for you because you're not a hedgehog and we're not human? What then? Wouldn't you rather have human kids?
No. If I had wanted kids before this, I would have gotten them. I didn't want kids until I met you. But if something does come up, we'll figure it out together. There's a reason why I spent so long thinking about whether or not I should keep you. Because I know being a dad isn't an easy job, or one that I would take lightly. I'm very aware of that. But I still want to be your dad. However, If 2 adult hedgehogs with psychic powers do show up claiming to be your parents, or when you're older and you want to go back to that planet and try to find out what happened to them, we'll deal with it then.
Silver shoved his face into his chest.
Okay.
Gently, Wade stroked his quills and was reminded that he still needed to get the toothbrushes for both of them. Another thing he mentally added to the list of things he had to get at the store tomorrow. But for now, he was starting to feel emotionally worn out and wanted to do something relaxing.
Now let's finish this up. You need to go to bed soon.